Good morning and welcome back. This is World Talks coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. And as promised, we're going to discuss the latest from Germany. On Friday, Germany's upper house greenlit plans to increase spending to stimulate growth and enhance the military. This vote represents a significant shift in Germany's financial approach, putting an end to years of fiscal conservatism. The package features €500 billion infrastructure fund and more flexible borrowing rules for defense. And to discuss all this, I have Łukasz Jasiński, Germany Analyst, Polish Institute for International Affairs, joining me right now. Good morning, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with a pretty basic question. So what are the main changes what are the constitutional amendments and why do they matter?
There are basically two major changes applied by the parliament. Namely, there will be no upper limit for defense spendings. Every amount of money that is above 1% of the GDP will be excluded from the so-called debt break rule. So practically there will be no upper limit for defense spending, so to speak, sky is the limit. The other very important thing, the other amendment is the creation of a special fund in the scale of €500 billion, a fund that is also excluded from the debt break rule. So this is actually a credit line. And this fund will be devoted to infrastructure. However, this word infrastructure here is regarded and very broadly. So it is not only about refurbishing railways or motorways, but also, for instance, in investments in digital infrastructure, in schools, in social infrastructure, and also, which is very important, in new green energy and climate preservation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the EU as a whole, right, is also investing more into its defense. However, a lot of it is based on debt, is based on borrowing, and some EU leaders, such as Giorgia Meloni, criticize that. So what influence do you think these amendments will have on Germany's budget?
Well, firstly, Germany are in much better and much comfortable position than, for instance, France or Italy when it comes to debt. So here, the space of maneuvering, so to speak, is much broader. Germany can issue a lot more debt than the other countries, and they are willing to do so. According to some economists, they are finally willing to do so. When it comes to the EU as whole, well, this is definitely a signal towards the other countries, towards other partners, that Germany are willing to be back as one of the leaders of the EU. In shorter perspective, this is also a signal, of course, issued towards Washington, D.C. and towards Donald Trump's administration.
Right. You mentioned Germany's changing role within the EU. What about NATO?
Well, definitely, this move regarding defense spending can be regarded and should be regarded as an element of a process of strengthening the so-called NATO's European pillar or European pillar of NATO. This is a very strong signal towards other countries. For instance, France, UK, also Poland, that Germany are willing to do much more than they used to do in previous years, that they regard situation concerning the European defense, European security as very fragile, very demanding, and that they are willing to do much more, they're willing to invest much more. This is also a very strong signal towards Washington. This is a signal that, from my point of view, aims also on strengthening the transatlantic alliance, or at least remaining, or at least safeguarding the transatlantic alliance. As we know, Donald Trump's administration openly criticized many European partners for not doing enough for defense. And now Germany, as the biggest European economy, sent a very strong signal. Okay, we will do much more than previous, and we have changed our approach. And starting from now, this is not about fiscal conservatism in terms of defense, but it is all about this everything it takes approach. So this is very important change. This is not about any idea of, it has nothing to do with any idea of building some kind of European sovereignty, of decoupling from US when it comes to defense. Friedrich Merz, other German politicians are aware of the fact that US will remain a crucial security provider for Europe, at least in the perspective of the next more or less decade. So this movement is mostly aims at simply strengthening the transatlantic alliance and it is rather an attempt of making a deal with Donald Trump's administration. Okay, Mr. President, you are willing as Europeans to do much more. So here you have it. We are going to do much more. We are going to spend much more, but we still have our expectations that you will remain also engaged in Europe.
Right, but what about Ukraine? Because a €3 billion package was just approved, right? So what about Ukraine? What about Germany's stance on Ukraine?
Here, the line of Friedrich Merz, so the future chancellor, is very clear. Germany are going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. So this approach has not changed. You mentioned this €3 billion. Well, this was the sum of money that has been blocked personally by Chancellor Olaf Scholz, so the ongoing chancellor. Friedrich Merz here has more clear message, namely even during the election campaign to the Bundestag, during all the debates, he stressed the fact that Germany are not neutral in this conflict because Germany are standing side by side with Ukrainians and they are going to help Ukraine as long as possible. So here I do not expect any changes. Perhaps even this scale of support will be bigger than it used to be during the Chancellor Scholz's term.
And you've mentioned the US, and I wanted to know, how do you see the US-Germany relations developing moving forward?
Well, it depends from which aspect of these relations we are talking about. When it comes to defense, the German line seems to be very clear, namely from the point of view of Berlin. The crucial thing is to maintain the transatlantic relations, to keep it strong, to try to strike some kind of a deal with Donald Trump's administration. When it comes to trade relations, however, here the situation is much more complicated. We know about the tariffs. If the American administration decides to impose wide-ranging tariffs on the automobile industry and so on, then Germany can be severely affected by this. Germany will try to avoid the trade war with US, also by influencing the EU's decisions. But at the end of the day here, the situation can be very tensed and will be very tensed, most probably for the next 3 or 4 years. Of course, knowing Donald Trump's administration, there is also some kind of space for negotiations. Just to mention these tariffs with Canada that were imposed and that they were frozen back and so on. So here, I think that will be very, very, very tense times. But again, Friedrich Merz is a devoted transatlantist. He is aware of the role of these relations with US for German security and also economy. So he will be doing everything that he will be able to do in order to maintain this relation on a good level, apart from the tensions that are here inevitable.
But will German economy, will Germany be able to handle that? I mean, increased debt and also, tariffs. Would that sort of, how would that play out? Do you see a potential danger there?
Well, when it comes to debt itself, the crucial thing is if this pivotal moment, if this pivotal change regarding the debt will be also accompanied by necessary reforms. Germany have been struggling with many structural problems, like, for instance, the bureaucracy, the complicated law, mechanism of procurement, equipment for the Bundeswehr, and so on and so on. And here I expect that Merz will be also try to impose some reforms regarding these issues. So simplifying bureaucracy, for instance, simplifying some bureaucratic mechanisms in order to actually boost the economy and to boost the rate of investment. Because now for Germany, this is absolutely a crucial thing to really boost the amount and the scale of public investments. Germany have been struggling with economic stagnation since 2 years now. So this idea of issuing debt and of pumping, so to speak, lots of money into the economy seems to be the only solution. Germany do not have problems with a big scale of public debt. The problems of Germany are lack of investments, marauding economy, the level of digitalization that is completely inappropriate for such a big and technically advanced country, and this simply needs to be done. But again, if this program of issuing debt and of boosting economy through issuing debt is to succeed, it needs to be accompanied by larger reforms, some of which can be also unpopular. I mean, here reforms or some spendings regarding social sphere, for instance.
Mm-hmm. And do you think
so to make long story short, we are now in some point of a longer process of reforms sparked by this new government that will probably be formed and start action in April.
And do you think that these important changes in Germany will have a spillover effect on what's happening in Poland?
Well, it depends. From the point, as far as security is concerned, this is definitely in the Polish interest. It's definitely in the Polish interest that Germany will finally do more and will finally be really serious about defense spending, about making the Bundeswehr stronger, more agile, more efficient. When it comes to infrastructure, I also suppose that here we can have some chance, and we can use this chance in making the scale and the scale of these connections between Poland and Germany, railway, motorways, and so on better level. It is also important. These investments in economy can also be very important in terms of military mobility. This is also an aspect mostly connected with security, with our security, but here there's also a very big space for improvement. So yes, in short term, I think these are the quite positive moves from the Polish point of view. Of course, it is always a question about the longer perspective. What are the German ambitions concerning the EU as a whole? Will they be willing to transfer to be as a leader, or one of the leaders of the EU, this force that will be aiming to transfer EU as a more sovereign strategic actor or not? But this is a longer perspective.
Absolutely. For this lots of important questions yet to be asked.
These are the positive changes, and they should be regarded as positive from a Polish point of view.
Łukasz Jasiński, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.